105.5 FM.
Boom! I don't like how you can change your tone. You can change it up. You be like, sometimes you be like, this is Flavor 105.5 FM, and then you be like, this is Flavor 105.5 FM, and I always gotta do boom. That can't do it.
You can change it.
Okay, all right, do it again. Let's do it again. All right, good. Let's do it again.
This is what we do on video.
Okay.
This is the Positive Impact Show on 105.5 FM.
Boom.
Oh Lord, no, we can't do that. We can't do that. That ain't sexy nor cute.
It's not. That's what I was going for. That's the
that
I
was neither or.
Boom.
I don't like that either. That's
all right.
no.
All right, that's all. Can't even do it.
So we're still talking with the Kelly Square 4.
Or 3.5.
Okay, or 3.
Or 3. Well, Robert's not here, but Mike is here.
I was saying,
I'm not bored, Kelly Square.
no, I was saying,
They're about to go arrest. They're about to go arrest Mike. I knew you was there.
I was the one we put in the flight. We're still talking with the crew.
Okay.
Can I say that?
You can say the crew.
Okay, so we talking with the crew. I'm not talking anymore. You do that again.
All right, I won't do that.
Don't do it like that again.
Go ahead.
So you had a question.
Yes. I forgot what my question was. No,
Exactly, because
I did not forget
women
I
sensitive.
I'm just kidding. I didn't forget what my question was. Boss, are we okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We gotta
Don't
get
do
serious.
that. Don't do that.
Okay, no more. We gotta get serious stuff. Okay? Serious face. So.
Oh, it's real deep now.
Yeah, that's when the
That's
lip
that
come
deep.
up. That's the
that
deep.
deep.
Okay. All right. So off. All right, Julius, you weren't here, but I was just talking to them about issues with protesting versus organizing, and they kind of said that it was not mutually, or was it mutually exclusive? I'm botching it a little bit right now. Bear with me. But we were kind of talking. Okay, so this is the question that I presented to them. Kind of. I'm all for protesting. Truth be told, one of the times when you guys were going to court, I was outside holding signs. So it's not like I have a problem with protesting at all. But my question is, at what point, or should we be doing more to organize getting people like out to vote? The voter turnout to me was really disappointing. And I think we could have done more in our efforts to get that improved as well. Because at the end of the day, we have to get, so like we said with the bloggers and the hate, the racist hate that's in Worcester, and there's a lot of it. When it starts trickling down to like the city council or even the situation that you guys are in, and that's how we believe it happened, or that's how I believe it happened, and so I'll speak for myself. The only solution I really see is us coming together, putting our differences aside, and organizing so we can put more people in city council that aren't about that life, that aren't about listening or being influenced by racism or being influenced by hate towards black people. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I got a lot of thoughts. The first thing I want to say is that it's not just about hate. It's not just about people being all up in their feelings and not liking who you are, or how you look, right? It's about hate combined with power.
Okay.
Right? So it's not that people just feel some kind of way. It's that they feel some kind of way and then they go out and vote. And I think also the reason why people don't go vote is because they read the way that the world works, the way the government has treated us as folks and in their own personal lives, and they don't actually feel like voting is going to make a difference. And I don't judge black people. I say this all the time. I don't judge black people. I don't judge anything that we do in that sense, because after 500 years, of a pressure cooker of oppression, that can do a lot of things to a lot of people. So it manifests differently in individuals. I think if we actually want to get free and make change, then we got to work together. But to say that somebody is wrong for not voting, I think is like the wrong approach. As far as the protest piece, I think it's something that you got to experience to really appreciate it, because when you are out in the protest and the energy is live and you're saying what you feel, and you're saying it at the top of your lungs, and you're saying it with hundreds of people, and you're out there and you're like hugging on people that you love, you're hugging on other black folks, you see your white accomplices, you're yelling at cops. That is a very empowering experience, and you feel and are powerful in that moment because you are exercising the freedoms that were fought for you to have them. So I think that it's not a waste of time to protest. I think I don't think protesting only is going to get us free. I think that there has to be other work on it. But to say that disempowered people should not go out and feel powerful in a protest, I think is wrong, honestly.
Okay.
I want to make it clear out the gate that we don't all share the same views here. We don't
Right.
all have the same response, I think, to your question. I agree with what Julia said for sure. But I also think, one of the reasons we can't blame anybody, but especially people of color and poor people for not voting, is because the system does not work for people. We have seen, whether it's Democrats or Republicans, the system is not designed to work for people. So in addition to what Julia said about sort of at the individual level experiencing what protest is about, one of the chants that people that protesters, you will often hear protesters out there yelling is, this is what democracy looks like.
Mhm.
The reason for that is because let me set aside local politics for a second and I'll come back. But at the national level, in my view, which I know is different from many people in this room, when we cast a vote, we contribute to the illusion of a democracy. It is not a democracy.
Okay.
We live in an oligarchy where we have our politics are owned by corporations, right? So if Walmart owns 40%, Walmart owns as much wealth as the bottom 40% of Americans combined. They have a lot more that they can contribute to the decision making of politicians by giving them money,
Okay.
right, to fund their campaigns. Until campaign finance is, until we get out in the streets and we start saying that we're not going to go to the polls and vote. Instead, we're going to demand that you get the funding out of our politics. So that our politicians can represent us. They're supposed to be our representatives, not the representatives of Pfizer, Walmart, and other corporations. But that's how it's designed right now. So I actually think it does a disservice. It is against my views on liberation to tell people to go out and vote. I think we should be telling people to protest the system as it is now. At the local level, however, I think what I definitely witnessed, I think at the local level, politics matter a lot. We lost two very important school committee members, for example, with Tracy Novick and Hilda Ramirez.
Right. Yep.
Two very important. It was the first time that I felt like I should have been more involved in local politics. So I do think at the local level, politics can make a difference. But I also think when you talk about, why didn't you get out there, and it's like you're getting out there and only protesting and not
Mhm.
organizing for political change. I don't think that we have. I think that this isn't going to happen in a year. It's not like we could have gotten out there and said, "Hey, everybody, go out there and vote." Vote for who? Are there good candidates to vote for? We have to have a cultural shift in the way we think about who these politicians are. Who are we getting in school committee? Who are we getting in city council? And it may take a while before we get people that we feel are actually representing the people. I'm not going to tell people to go out and vote as if one of these politicians is going to make a difference over the other, when I know that actually it's not the case, you see. So this could be an attempt to start changing the consciousness, changing the way people think about all of this. Like, for example, maybe you change the way they think about maybe you can go and run for city council, but maybe you didn't really even think about that before. Like, maybe people aren't thinking like that because we just think that you have to have money, you have to have this, you have to have that. How can we reimagine a different way of doing things? That's what I'm most interested in.
Got it. Fascinating.
Mike got a question.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you
Well,
can.
I want Juice to respond.
Come on the air. And
Well,
then-
well, I'll let Juice
all right,
respond.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, there's just one thing I want to say. I think I founded Black Lives Matter Worcester, right? And forming the crew, got to have Mike as a part of it. And I think a lot of the narrative in the Black community, at least the feedback that I've heard, is like, we don't need to be out there singing and protesting. We need to be out there doing, X, Y, and Z, whatever
Right,
people,
right.
prescribed answer is, right? And I think my response to that is that, first of all, you can't argue with results, because BLM has had, well over 1,000 protests in the last year, and all of the moves that we have seen made have been because of protests. You can't argue with results. And then the way that this movement is rolling is different than it has been in the past, and people think of freedom as people think of fighting for freedom in however way they do, but I think of it more of like a race, right? And so people want to criticize folks who are running the race from the sidelines instead of just jumping in the race yourself, because I think that instead of trying to ask the people who are protesting to stop protesting and do what you think is a good idea, I think you should just go do what you think is a good idea and get into the race. And if you win and you get to the finish line and you get that key, please undo my chains and I'll do the same.
Okay, so the only issue that I have with that part of it, because I get what you're saying, and I understand what Sonia said too, and I am learning as I go along, but I don't think with what we're up against for the 200 years and everything, I don't think we can have that attitude of, if you don't agree with me, just go do what you're doing and we'll see if you work, and I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. At the same time, I think it should be more of us trying to come together collectively to try to, I don't know, maybe I'm sounding too Martin Luther King-ish, but I don't, it's like there's two, like in Worcester, I think it's like a divide and conquer thing. And I think one of the reasons why it's a divide and conquer thing is because a lot of people have that kind of attitude. So, for example, you can disagree with anything that I say, and if you said, I need help with something, or if you're going to court and Mike says, let's go down there and let's hold signs, I'm there because I'm looking at the big picture. But I don't think everybody thinks, a lot of people think like, you don't agree with what I'm doing in my next step, so I can't mess with you. And then I'll be like, hey, I'm going down there, with them, with the Kelly Square 4, they're going to court, you want to come with me and hold signs? Nah, I don't like Sonia. I don't like Kevin. I don't like Robert because Rob, he got an attitude or something like that. And I think that's the thing that I think one of the things that has to get fixed is just as much as the other problems that we're facing.
And I think it's rare that there's lots of disagreement about tactics and what people think will work. There's a lot of that, right? But I think it's rare that people will come out to support, like you will come out to support someone or something that they don't necessarily wholly agree with. You know what I'm saying? I wish there was more collectiveness like that. And I think we can build towards that vision of working together. But, people act like disenfranchisement and people not voting is an accident. Right? Like that kind of thing didn't just happen.
Right.
There was like thousands of hours of planning and like hundreds of thousands of murders that kept people from feeling like they could vote, right?
Or there's a lot of felons who don't even realize that they can vote. They're like, I'm like, you gonna vote? Nah, man, I've been arrested in 1986. I'm like, what are you talking about? You can still vote.
Yeah, and I think that historical, like people's personal feelings, but that historical energy still carries.
Right.
Basically, the United States ran a passive, unofficial campaign to keep people from feeling like they could vote, right? And so to reverse that, what we really need is an equal opposite campaign where the same forces that came together to keep us out of the ballot box need to come together to go out into the hood and get people into the ballot box. I don't think that I don't necessarily completely disagree with Sonia's assessment, but I think that the end game in a democracy will eventually look like us voting and us voting people in that look like us, that have our politics, that have our interests in mind. But the path to get there has been continuously destroyed by white supremacy and white backlash. And so it's worked. It's worked. And the way that you can tell on the personal level that it's worked is because when you talk to somebody who's black or a person of color who's considering whether or not they will come out to an action, they let their personal feelings about another person of color or another organizer and that dislike for them completely stop their participation in this like 5 year long movement.
That's what I was talking
about. And that is internalized oppression.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't judge black people. You know what I'm saying? But you can go on and do what you need to do. But I think that the way that we actually will get free is by working together, despite our differences, because we have greater differences with people like that want to kill us.
It's crazy the kind of enemy that we're up against. I'm gonna let Mike go, but it's crazy the enemy that we're up against because it's like one day I'm like, yeah, I'm with Black Lives Matter. Next day I'm like, man, I don't know. Then now it was like I'm like, man, we should all be voting. We should get more people out to vote. Then Sonia Tata was like, man, I ain't voting for nothing. And then now it's like, oh, maybe I should vote. It almost, this is what the system, it has you second guessing everything you do when you're trying to do the right thing. It's crazy.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this because I really want to ask this. I want to say, so I disagree with a little bit with Sonia's position. And as recently, I had to, because I'm going through what I was going through my job, I had to do some campaign work. Let go. I had to do some campaign work for Christian King's campaign, and we were going door to door. Yeah, she did say that on local level, right? But I'm going to show you how I feel like it projects past the local level. It wasn't until I did this that I realized that they actually know who votes.
Yeah.
There's a printout of who votes, and so whether or not you agree with it, you don't vote. My thinking on this is the same reason why I used to fight, right? Like you don't fight for the person you fight for the people that's watching, right? When you vote, it's not for these candidates, it's voting for the future. To say that, yes, I represent. So when these placating politicians come around, they know that you vote and they're going to come and see you. So when you have this voting block, people say, hey, we vote. They just might listen to you what you want, not because they care about you, because they're trying to get that seat. And as long as we continue to have this position that we're not going to vote, we are invisible in the system. And it's a detriment to us. But my question is this, right? I actually kind of I came around where you are. Like, I think it's unrealistic to expect human beings to pick up flags next to people who they don't like. Any evidence on or research on coalitions or networks that work says that you have to have relationships and trust.
Mm-hmm.
It will not work. My enemy's enemy is my friend is only a bridge for now. It does not work. It's not sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
With the Black Lives Matter, I recently joined the Black Lives Matter, but I had it up to here with the protest. I'm only with Black Lives Matter because my brother reached out a hand to me and said, hey, what's up, Mike? You down? Anything black, I'm in, right? Or anything about people, I'm in. But I'm done with the protest. I'm so sick of it. With people talking about we've made progress, we're better off. The civil rights era was a win. How? What do you measure? What are the metrics? What did we win? How are we better? I think at some point in time we need to look and say, look, maybe we need to review or revise this approach. I don't see how this protest is a win. How this protest is a win at all.
Mm-hmm.
Was that the question?
Oh, question was sorry about that. So the question is if there are not if protesting is not the option, what are some of the other things or tactics or strategies that people can employ other than protesting?
Julius's baby.
You mean for trying to get free?
Trying to get free, yeah.
Yeah. In the movement we say black love is all we need. So anything that anything that advances that, I think, is the way to get free.
But a lot of people say the love is gone.
See, but I think that's an interesting point for sure. I'm trying to not be long-winded,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm gonna
You
take
got time.
Go
okay.
in.
I'm gonna take
This
a
is,
minute.
this is. I control the soundboard. So go.
So I'm gonna take a minute, right? So if we look at the end game of what does Black freedom look like,
Mm-hmm.
right? What does freedom for our community look like,
Mm-hmm.
and what does freedom for the world look like? What does global freedom look like? It looks like people being able to be happy and healthy and to live their life out along a natural course and not be killed by oppression. Not be shot dead at 12 years old for literally just playing, not be shot dead in the street for whatever happened between Mike Brown and Darren Wilson. And, that's like the fast kinds of murder, the fast kinds of violence. But then there's also slow kinds, right? Like last year, I lost my mom to cancer, and my grandmother suddenly died. And that's like a different form of violence against Black folks and our diminished health outcomes. Literally, just being a Black woman in this country means that you have higher rates of infant mortality, for controlling for everything else. For everything else, it's not about wealth. It's not about status. Just controlling for everything else. Just being Black in this country means that you have a tougher life. So to me, freedom looks like eliminating those conditions and creating a space for us to finally be us and feel safe, right? And so whatever you can do, it's kind of open-ended. Whatever you can do to create that on a local level and like on a micro level in your family, on a local level in your community, and on a national level, I think is the work that you need to do. And everybody's got different interests. Me, I prefer to be yelling out in the street. I prefer to be yelling at some cops and letting them know how wrong I think that the system is, right? And I also like the idea of cooperative businesses, of us owning collectively the jobs that we have, and we create the jobs that we want. But, for some people, freedom looks like, being a professor. So for some people, freedom looks like, all kinds of myriad, owning a radio station or, doing all kinds of work. And I think that for what I would say to answer your question, Mike, is like, other than protesting, what people can do to get free is make that personal decision of, I am not just going to sit back and take this oppression anymore.
Right.
And I'm not just going to escape from it with video games to drugs. I'm not going to run from it. I'm going to confront it. And I'm going to take this particularly unique moment in history and actually do some work that I feel like is going to work for us. That's what I think people can do. It's got to be self-directed.
All right. So the next question is kind of to get off a little bit of the serious. Well, I don't know. But what was Robert doing on the truck during the protest? He passed the mic. He said, "I am not answering it." Because I was with the block of the traffic.
We're just gonna keep coming right back around to the same question, which the same answer is just you asked the wrong questions.
Okay.
The question is, what was this man in the truck doing so close to the protesters that he almost ran the protesters over, and why was he not charged? That's the question that needs to be asked. If we're talking about disturbing the peace, there is nothing more evident.
Mm-hmm. He could have been charged with assault.
That day, that's right. And there's another woman could have been charged with battery, who her car actually touched, almost hit the back of some protesters.
You
legs.
talking about the blue Acura?
Right? Yeah. So there were people there who should have been charged with assault and battery, who were not even charged with disturbing the peace. So again, I implore you to rethink your questions, because the reason is because you see, when you know this because you two are in media, right? So it's all about framing the way we understand everything that's happening, our entire reality, right? How do we understand it? It's all about perception. Like, reality is just something we construct, right? And the way that it's being framed in the media, what our job is, one important, when Julie's talking about everybody can, people got to do what they can do. I think like one super important thing that the media can do, alternative media like this, like alternative to the mainstream media, right, is to ask different questions, to reframe the discussion, because they are framing this discussion in such a way that it is shaping the way people perceive it. There are people who are talking about we didn't let an ambulance through, that somebody jumped on the truck and did this. Nobody's talking about the facts, which is that there were 2 people involved who were not charged with assault and battery, that it is okay to assault and harm people who are peacefully protesting, people who are exercising their First Amendment right.
Okay. Now I'm all for the reframing questions, but in order to reframe a question, you have to know what happened. And until you know what happened, you can't ask that question. Because what it looked like was, and what my eyes saw was he jumped on the thing.
What if,
I didn't see it, but this is what other people, you know what I mean, have said. It looks like he jumped on the truck.
Yeah,
right?
Okay, go ahead.
also to play angel's advocate, why would I don't do nothing devil. Why would the average citizen or who uninformed citizen, to Chantel's point, say frame that question that way when they say, well, you were in the street, and if you were in the street, the cars would never hit you.
Yeah.
So why would the average person reframe that question that way? Most people would think you wouldn't be in the street.
He didn't accidentally, he wasn't like accidentally about to hit us because we got in the street and got into his way. He moved around traffic. This person in this truck moved around traffic to intentionally come and intimidate protesters by getting this close to protesters. So it wasn't an accident. It wasn't because protesters in the streets, because this person decided that he could control that situation, that he should be able to control that situation, that anyone who is protesting Black lives for Black lives, that somehow it's okay to harm these people.
Okay, so from the outside looking in, if you were watching the video for the first time, would you have gotten that? Would you have gotten that narrative from watching the video? Have you seen the video in question?
No, but you're starting from this point that a camera only has one angle.
It does.
And so we got to get away from assuming that there's only one angle to every story. And I think that's what folks are saying here. So my angle...
Right, but to get the angle, I have to ask, why did he jump? I didn't say, why did he jump on it? He was wrong. I just said, why did he jump on it? So that's when you take the opportunity, well, what you didn't see. But when you say, oh, you have to ask why you asking these questions, that's not
defensive.
Yeah.
So I think that media needs to ask different questions, but also answering a question, it needs to be answered a little differently. Because I think with a lot of things that have gone on with the whole Black Lives Matters movement and everything, there's been so much defense in not just stating the facts. This is what it was, and talking in that manner. You understand what I'm saying? Because I could say to Mike, yo, son, what's the deal? Right? Now, I can say that way, and he's like, yo, there's a problem. Or I can say, Mike, what happened? So it's different. You understand what I'm saying? So I think the reframe, you know what, you can also get slapped. But what I'm saying is I think the questions need to be formed differently, but also the answers need to come a little differently as well.
Yeah, I mean, all right. Yeah, so no, I get that.
It was an edited video too, by the way. So to your defense, it was an edited video. It's not like it was just completely recorded. From the video that I saw, it just shows like you guys standing in the street. I saw you guys let the ambulance go, and it like cut and went right to him jumping on the truck. And I was like, what is it? What is he doing? Lord, they peacefully doing it. Why is he jumping on? It almost like the way it looked like it was counterproductive to what you were doing. So that's why I asked.
You didn't see the truck? Like,
no, I didn't. I saw the car. I did see the car. But go ahead.
I'll put it like this, right? You know, when you see the video, right, and we're all under the control of media, right? We've all seen TV. We all grew up with TV generation, right?
Yeah, indeed.
And so what I'm trying to say is it can look like whatever it looks like, but if you see a Black man jumping up on a truck in an aggressive manner, people are just going to assume that he's up to no good.
I would have said the same thing if he was white, though.
Wait.
At the end of the day, I would have said the same thing if he was white.
I don't know Robert personally. Is Robert Black?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know him personally. I met him once in my life, so. Okay, I met him once, so I wasn't 100% sure, and I didn't want to be offensive, but I was like, "Are you Black?" Because when I be on Xbox Live, I know you said no video games, but I be on Xbox Live sometimes, and I be talking to them, and I be like, "I'm Black." They be like, "No, you're not." I'm like, and I get offended, so I get a little sensitive when I ask.
But go ahead.
I think,
I love
but
you.
I think what it also says about protesting, right, is like, it's like we have to protest violence completely 110%, like overly peacefully, right? So there's no room. It leaves no room for our anger unless you're white. Yeah, but it leaves no room for our anger to show without criticism, right?
Bring your weapons.
And so my thing is, people gonna have a problem with the protests, right?
Mhm.
But people have a greater problem with the protests than what we were actually protesting,
Protesting,
right?
Yeah.
So we're talking about our children being murdered in the streets, and we spent a lot of time not talking about that, right? And now we're talking about how this man jumped up on a truck that was clearly
Facts.
trying to hit us. The truck was trying to hit us. I was in the street, right? I got hit by a car who rolled up on it. She hit me in the back of the legs, right? And then this tractor trailer, this 18-wheeler comes pulling out of traffic, blocks 3 or 4 other cars in, and then is all up in my grill, right?
Mhm.
And then suddenly the problem is that one of the Kelly Square 4 jumped up on the truck. It's just a diversion. It's just a diversion.
Facts.
And like
It's
what we're
always
fighting
like
against, is this larger narrative of like, do people deserve to be mistreated? Or like what if we were out in the street and we're protesting, then we deserved what we got, right? It's like it's our constitutionally protected right
It's
to
our
do
duty.
whatever the hell we want
Mhm.
to say that this is wrong. And honestly, that protest wasn't even that, it wasn't like that aggressive. It was a holiday weekend, right? And it was Kelly Square. Kelly Square is already crazy. Everybody knows that, right?
Yes.
We're out there for 4.5 minutes. We let people know. We let the ambulance through, right? And then all people can talk about is the seeming aggression for somebody
Right.
jumping on a truck.
It is good. I agree.
It's 100%. It's like as soon as you say the word protest, or they were protesting, they were holding signs in front of in front of the courthouse. My mother called me. She's like, "Boy, what was you doing holding them signs in front of the courthouse like that? Now you
Sound
know
like
better."
that,
Wait till you hear my mom.
That's what she sounded like.
though. You know what? Now I'll give you the co-sign.
But you know why? It's such a negative. But that's why I asked the question. So you can no. I'm just saying. So that's why I asked it. So you can give another insight to the same thing. Because it's like if we both see the same car accident, we'll have a completely different of what happened. A story of what happened in the same thing.
That's all I'm gonna say. Will did it.
Shots fired. So that's why I appreciate you guys coming and sharing your thoughts. I'm glad that when I found out that they were coming on, I was excited because I do like to learn. I want to learn. Yeah, I do. I want to learn. I'm willing to learn from anybody. So I really appreciate it.
But we're gonna talk about that when we come back. We're gonna take a pause for the cause, though.
All right.
Right?